Hey guys, and welcome to 21 Omni 121's kind of Atlantean Mermail Chaos deck profile. So, let's just go in. Blackluster Soldier, or actually no, let's first talk about what the Atlanteans' main aim is. So the Atlanteans' aim is that when they're sent to the graveyard by a water card's effect, their effect activate. And the cards that allow them to discard are the Mermail. So they work together very nicely. So let's go in. Blackluster Soldier is Blackluster Soldier. I run 2 light monsters, 3 or 5 dark monsters, and a couple of Syncros which are light, and a couple of Syncros which are dark. So I have a nice mix in there with my Syncros, and one Blackluster Soldier. Blackluster Soldier is a great card. I would recommend to run it in any deck that carries even a couple of lights and a couple of darks, and I can get it out pretty well. Then the next boss monster that you have is the Mulling Glacier, the Elemental Lord. This card can only be special summoned when you have exactly 5 water monsters in your graveyard, and you have pretty nice control of the water monsters in your graveyard with Salvage, with Avarice, so you have a decent control over your graveyard, and so you should be able to get 5 in pretty easily. If not, you can just get rid of it with Moray, or need to discard it to activate one of your other cards' effects. But if you don't know what this card effect is that when this card is special summoned, discard 2 random cards from your opponent's hand, which is great unless you're playing against Dark Worlds, of course, and you can only activate 1 of this card per turn, and if this card leaves the field, skip your next battle phase. So, not too great of a bad, well, its side effect isn't too bad, but most of the time when you've got this, you should have a decent advantage. This is kind of your final push, and it's searchable through your main searching card of Dragoons, but I'll go into that slightly later. Effect Veiler is Effect Veiler. It's a tuner, you can discard it, and your hand traps in this deck aren't too bad. You don't have too many hand traps, and you don't actually have too many traps either, so you need a slim protection at least. Then Gorz is one of your big hand traps. Since you don't run many traps, you can summon Gorz straight to the field. Almost every time you draw it, it will be a 2700 beta at the least. Tragodia, you have a huge hand advantage in this deck. It's probably going to be that your Tragodia is going to be 2400 attack, if not 3600. So it has such a great attack. You're always going to be taking damage. You have lots of smaller monsters, so you're going to be taking damage. It's basically a free special summon of a 3000 beta, much like Gorz's. But Tragodia's secondary effects also do help for synchro summoning, for exceed summoning, and often you do carry a decent amount of levels, level 3s, level 4s, level 7s. You can take control of your opponent's monsters on the occasional turn. Basically, it's just a secondary Gorz. GNX Ally Birdman and the GNX controllers are coming to a bit later, but first, GNX UD. GNX UD is an optional card in this kind of deck. I kind of like it because I like the chaos possibility of this deck. The slight chaos, if you call it chaos at all, because I only carry 2 lights, or technically 3. But anyway, Udine's effect is, when it's normal summon, successfully of course, when you can send 1 monster card from your deck to your graveyard to add 1 GNX controller from your deck to your hand. So basically the main play is to summon it. You send either, if you need to pop a card on the field, you send 1 of these. But if you need to search for a card, you send Dragoons. And then their effect activates because they're sent as a cost. You get to activate their cards, and then you get to add a controller to your hand. And controller is a bad card to draw. I won't say it's not, but it's also level 3, so you can exceed summon with it. You can also synchro summon with it because it's a tuner monster, which is nice. Often I've been able to go for level 7 with it with my level 4 Abyss Spike. So it's nice in that sense, and you can also run Allure of Darkness, which you have decent number of dark targets for, so not too bad. And GNX Ally Birdman allows you to have more consistency with your darks, or more consistency with your Allure of Darkness, and it also allows you to go for other plays too, but I'll go to that a bit later. I only run 2 controllers because I only run 2 Udines. You could run 3 Udine, I don't think it's worth it because it's perfectly searchable with your other cards. Then 2 Diva. I'm thinking of popping up this to 3, but at the moment this is the build that I am liking. Diva is, when it's normal summoned, you can special summon one level 3 or lower Sea Serpent type monster from your deck. Most of the time, that's going to be your marksman, so you can go for a quick synchro for level 5, which is going to be your Allied Justice Catasta, your Magical Android, or your TG Hyper Librarian. So you carry 3 synchros and 2 tuners. So it gives you a nice mix, allows you to go for a Gachi if you need to as well, if you want to summon the other level 2. Allows you to open up a lot of plays, is searchable. Synchro summoning is great, allows you to get over big monsters that aren't dark, allows you to stall other type of synchro monsters, or just gain a bit of life. And it also allows you to put a decent number of waters into your graveyard. So it's not the main aim of your deck, but it's a nice push if you need it. Then you go to the actual Atlantean. So you know how the effects activate when they're discarded by a water card monster effect, or sent to the graveyard by a water monster card effect, but there has to be a cost, I'm pretty sure, to activate auto monster cards effect. So when they're sent to the graveyard at a cost, their abilities activate. So they all have 2 abilities, one when they're sent as a cost and a secondary ability. First, I'm going to go through their cost abilities. Infantry, you get to pop 1 face-up monster, or 1 face-up card on the field. Marksman, you get to destroy 1 set card on the field. Dragoons, you get to search for 1 Sea Serpent type monster in your deck. So all of them activate when they're discarded, and I only run 2 infantry because its secondary effect isn't that great, and if I'm going to be able to pop a monster, which is often the case, but I also have Dark Hole for that, I have Mind Control, I have Lance if I need to get anything over too big, I have Catasta, I have Scrap Dragon if I really need to go into that, so 2 I think is good. And with this deck, you know when you... what am I trying to say? When you, in the situation you need, you can always send the card that you need in that situation. For example, you need to destroy set cards, you summon Udine, you send Marksman to the graveyard. If you need to destroy a face-up card, you send Infantry. If you need to search for a card, you go for Dragoons. So, it's that searchability, that compatibility for the right situation, you can go for the right card that you need, which is great to have in any deck. It gives you so many options, it's not a very linear deck, you can try and go for several plays, but they also have secondary effects. Infantry's secondary effect is that you can summon another level 4 or lower Sea Serpent type monster in addition to your normal summon or set, which is nice. You basically get 2 normal summons, which is helpful for some of your plays. Marksman has, I think, the best secondary effect is that when it inflicts damage, you get to special summon another Atlantean monster from your deck, level 4 or lower, which is most of the time going to be Dragoons because you can't special summon another Marksman, which is going to be another Dragoon, so you get 1800. So basically, it's a 3200 beta if you could get if you can get the attack in, and it gets you a free Dragoons. And Dragoons' secondary effect is that level 3 or lower Sea Serpent type monsters can attack your opponent directly. So these 2 together make a pretty nice combo. Nice. I can't say much more. Then you go to your Mermail side, you go to Abyss Maglo. So you can discard 2 other water monsters to the graveyard from your hand to special summon it. So the cards you'll be discarding are the Atlanteans, and even once they're sent to the graveyard, you can recycle them with Salvage and Avarice. So I know 3 might seem a bit excessive, but I think it's the correct amount. You discard one of these to destroy the card that you need to on the field, and then you can summon Maglo. And the Maglo's secondary effect is that when it's summoned successfully, you get to add an Abyss Sphere or an Abyss card, but I only run Abyss Sphere from your deck to your hand, so you go +1 of that, and you contribute another water monster on your field for it to attack twice. So often you can go for a quick OTK, it's 4800 if you can distribute another water monster such as an infantry or something like that. So quick damage, and it's nice, it's searchable, you can send it back with Moray if you don't need at the correct time, and you can special summon it with Abyss Sphere, which allows you to special summon any Mermail monster from your deck, and Abyss Lyn. Abyss Lyn is a very, very good card. I'm only running 2 because I only run 4 other of its targets, but it's great. If this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Mermail monster from your deck, excluding itself. The main play is going to be either this is destroyed naturally, or you have this set. You have it set, they activate MST on your turn. You chain Abyss Sphere, you summon Abyss Lyn. This card is destroyed, so Abyssalian is destroyed. Abyssalian's effect activates. You can either special summon an Abyss Blago if you want a 2400 beta, or what I often do, mainly in the end phase, is summon Abyss Spike. Abyss Spike's effect is that when this card is normal or special summon, you can discard one water monster, so one of your Atlanteans, to add a level 3 water monster from your deck to your hand. Most of the time, it's going to be the UD, because you go even more plus of this. But Abyss Fear's effect is that you can special summon one Mermail monster from your deck. Its effects are negated, which is not too bad, because it's only negated while it's attached. And when this card leaves the field, destroy that monster. Fair enough. You can't activate spell cards while it's activated, so remember that. Not too big of a deal if you activate it on your opponent's end phase, but if you activate it on your turn, remember you can't activate spell cards. And during the turn, this card, during the opponent's end phase that this card was activated, it's destroyed. So often you activate this in your opponent's end phase, it destroys itself. Abyssalian's effect activates. You summon Abyss Spike, activate Abyss Spike's ability, discard the marksman, destroy one set card in the field, basically like a set MST, so you get your plus off that, and then you get to add another UD as well. It's plus 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 in my opinion. This deck is incredibly, you go so much card advantage. Most of the time you should be able to win it pretty quickly, if not immediately. Then you have your standard Heavy Storm, Monster Reborn, Dark Hole, Allure of Darkness because you run darks that you don't particularly want to draw into, and then 2 Moray of Greed, not any Pot of Duality or like anything like that. This is basically your Pot of Duality, allows you to dig a bit further. Pretty much you want to activate Moray of Greed as soon as you can. It's as soon as you have 2 water monsters activated, because you might not have those water monsters and then it becomes a dead card, and it allows you to recycle your deck, thin your deck slightly, and get to the combo piece that you need to do. And it's got a nice play with Salvage, because you activate Salvage, you get 2 1500 attack lower water monsters back to your hand, and then you can send them back to your deck with Moray and then draw 3 cards. So you go +1 and you get a free or fresh hand. It's basically like a mini Avarice. Speaking of Avarice, you often have lots of cards in your graveyard. You Synchro summon quite frequently. Avarice is a great card. One Forbidden Lance, just so you can get over those slightly higher attackers if they try and do anything to you. You have that. It's a slim protection. And Mind Control, because you run 4, 5, 6 Synchros, 2 you're actually going to, 6 Tuner monsters, 2 you're actually going to summon properly, but Mind Control is a great card. You have several levels to exceed with, and things like that, and I've already explained Abyss Sphere, how it works. So let's just quickly go on to the side deck. It's not a proper side deck, to be honest, just lots of destruction cards. Chaos Sorcerer I was thinking of adding, and then perhaps not, as I don't run too many Lights or Darks if I'm dead. Another Effect Fail if you need more lights. Forbidden Lance for more protection. MST for counter decks like that, like things that run heavy traps that you can't pop with your marksman, because MST is a good card, but you can just pop the cards that you need when you like with these cards anyway, so it's not even that good of a card in this deck, in my opinion. And then you have Torrential, which is always a nice card. Bottomless, Solemn Warning, nothing too huge. You can probably make the side deck as you want. But extra deck are Armory Arm. I'm probably gonna, for Mistworm, probably a better option to have instead of Armory Arm, so I would recommend that. Just Catastrophe is your level 5, Android is your secondary level 5, and Librarian your 3rd level 5. Nice standard cards. 1 level 6 Gaia. Prior was broken. Well, was broken in this deck, that's why it's banned now. Black Rose, just in case you need to blow up the field for any reason. And then Gungnir is your secondary option for level 7 if you need to discard cards in your hand to activate their effects, because it's a cost, remember, and so you get to destroy more cards on the field. And remember that it's 1 tuner plus 1 or more non-tuner water monsters, so you could have Genius Controller, because the tuner doesn't need to be water itself, so you can have a controller and Abyss Spike, which gives you your level 7 Gungnir, discard cards, and then summon or activate their effects and destroy cards on the field is nice. Starless Dragon, standard level 8, Scrap Dragon, and as I said, Mistworm you can make decently quickly if you need to. Gachi Gachi, because you carry lots of level 2s, it's nice defensive play. 2 Zen mains, because you can often go for level 3s in this deck. 1 Levier, just in case, why not? And Leviathan Dragon and Acid Golem. if you didn't know, because Leviathan Dragon and Acid Golem are water monsters, when they're detached as material, for example, a marksman is detached as material, its effect actually activates because it doesn't say from the field, it just has to be sent. So say for example you summon Leviathan Dragon by overlaying 2 marksmen. So you overlay the 2 marksmen, you detach one of them, destroy one set card on the field. Remember that play because it might come into helpful, as with Acid Golem's effect. You detach or take 2000 damage. Detaching is the cost. Then their effects activate. You can destroy because it is a water monster. So very nice. You can go even more plus. And this deck goes incredibly plus. I'm sure you can tell from my 9 or 10 duels that I've had how it's supposed to work. It's pretty fast. Sometimes you can get rid of your hand too quickly. Basically, it's a lot like plants in my opinion. Plants are amazing when they have 3 or 4 cards in their hand, or 3 or 4 cards hand advantage, because then they can just explode whenever they like, and they'll still retain that advantage. Even so, the morning isn't that too big of a deal, since you have special summons, you have normal summons. Bottomless doesn't affect a lot of your monsters. There's so many plays you can do. You can get out the card you want at the right time whenever you like. You can destroy, basically discard whatever cards you need for the correct situation. It has lots of options. It's very viable. The only bad thing I would say is that it can't get over too big of a beta. If you go against Dark Lords, for example, 3000 attack Grapha is going to be a problem. Often the only back out you have is a Blackluster Soldier, and you don't want a 1 out of a 40 card chance, 1 out of 40 to draw that. So for Dark Lords, for example, you'd side in your Bottomlesses and things like that. Maybe other cards like Dimensional Prison. But generally, I think it's a great deck. It's going to be pretty popular in the near future, since once the Mermails are released more widely spread and aren't so expensive. But I'm pretty sure you know how to play your deck. It's nice. I would recommend playing it. You could probably change the side deck, as I've said. The extra deck is pretty thin, since you have Syncros and Exceed monsters that you can go for. But most of the time, you're not even going to go for that. And just before I forget, you can also run Big Eye, which is your level 7 Exceed monster. I don't run it because I didn't have enough space, but basically it's when you have 2 Abyss Meglo, and you can overlay them and then take control of one of your opponent's monsters, which is nice. But I'm sure from the duels you could tell how this deck plays. And 21 on 121, signing out. Hope you enjoy playing Atlantean Mermail Chaos.